Hello and welcome to TeamIM's second presentation of our online virtual stock market app. Our team members are Jacob Hicks, Jake Hartman, Matthew Seller, and Alex Winchester. We will start our presentation off with our current UI prototype.
We have completed 3 total UI iterations for this project, and a prototype was produced in each of the 3 iterations. At the time of the midterm, we had finished 1 iteration and were working on the second. Since the midterm, we completed the second and third iterations. We received feedback from friends, family, colleagues, and people who completed our survey from Reddit. I'm going to go over how we changed our UI prototype based on the feedback we received. One of the main concerns from the feedback we received was that the prototype was bland and lacked color. The login page is shown here, and some of the things we added to address this issue were the following. We added a logo, as you can see here, and we added a color scheme, which you can see here in orange and blue teal, which matches our logo. Both of these things, as well as the catchphrase seen here, gave the project a little life and made the prototype seem more realistic. We also got feedback from some test users that the font was a little hard to read without zooming in, so we also increased the font size on this page, the login page, and throughout the site. On the account creation page, some of our test users expressed some concerns about why we wanted their date of birth when signing up. Since this is a site where you can play for real money, we wanted to confirm that users playing for real money were above the age of 18, and so we did give added a little button here that would explain why we needed their date of birth when they clicked on it. And also, as you can see, the logo and the catchphrase are also showing on this page, and they show in the same place on each page for consistency. Another concern of our test users was that we had placeholder values, basically all zeros were showing where there should be balances, and as well as these numbers here. We just replaced those with actual numbers so it would look more realistic for the prototype testers. Another thing we did was we highlighted the current page in the navigation bar to show the user where they currently were. And also the placement of the user info was originally on the right over here, and we moved it over here to the left on this home page because for consistency across all pages. We received feedback on our user profile page that users wanted to see their gains and losses for each of the tournaments in their tournament history, so we added that here. Based on user feedback on the Market Center page, we moved a few things around, and we also added the user info to this page that is also on other pages for consistency. And we moved this over the market's information to the right side, also for consistency. And we moved the search to the top of the page just to give it a little bit of a nicer look. And we also added the option to view the changes in the suggested stocks over different lengths of time. Similar to how we replace the placeholder values on other pages and this page, we replaced this image, or there was no image here for the graph, with a image of a graph to give it a more realistic feel. On the tournaments page, we also replaced the placeholder text to give the prototype a more realistic feel, and also we added an option for the play money players to also participate in tournaments because of the feedback we got on Reddit showing that users were interested in risk-free competition. Also, based on our survey from Reddit, we found that many of them had little knowledge about the stock market, but would be interested in investing if they understood it more. So for our user forums, we replaced the placeholder content we had before with some content that might be appealing to beginning stock market investors.
So before we look at the functional GUI of the architecture, here's the class diagram of it. As you can see, there are 6 classes which are all connected. The company class holds all the information about the company's current stock prices. The stock certificate class is tied to an individual company and represents how many stock someone owns with that company. The stock account is tied to the user and holds all the information about the types of stocks that user currently owns. The user also has a bank account class variable that contains the user's current amount of money and withdrawal and deposit functions. All of these are tied into the mock trade class, which has the main method for creating users and companies and also the buying and selling of stock. So from here, let's go take a look at the actual functional GUI architecture. See here, this isn't the exact model of our current UI prototype. This is just to show our basic functions and our design architecture. We have this option over here to view your account. This shows us all the companies that are currently in our program. It shows us how many shares we owe. I have already bought 20 shares of Netflix. Now let's say we want to go buy some more stock or shares. We can go to McDonald's, view the company, and let's say we want to buy 10 shares of that. As you can see, it has taken away from our bank balance here. Now we can also sell some shares, which will put money back in our account and lower our shares. Right here it shows the change for today, which hasn't really changed in a couple of seconds that I sold mine, but that's okay. Now we can go back to our view account and make sure that that is updated, and that has, so that's all working. Another neat little feature is to just show these 2 stocks that we have. We can go to view portfolio, and it shows just what we have shares in and the purchase value of what we bought them at. And that kind of concludes our short little basic functionalities. Go back home and start the whole process over again. Now let's go check out the process that it took to complete all this.
Our group has completed 2 iterations and begun the 3rd, which will consist primarily of final design implementation. One of the biggest takeaways from the first iteration would be that including user feedback at each stage is an absolute must. The first iteration will really only provide you with a general framework for the project. Feedback after the first iteration and implementing that feedback throughout the course of multiple iterations until a final prototype is ready was vital to us maintaining a user-centered design. For the second iteration, a major learning point was to identify valid feedback. Some feedback from users can tend to detract from the overall scope of the project. Since user feedback is such a large part of our design process, it became very important to identify feedback that was relevant to the project as to not start making changes that would move us backwards rather than forwards. With the multiple iterations and user feedback regarding our prototype, we do not expect to make any major changes that would require us to redesign the project. It is also important to note that as a group we were able to converge on a final design for the project through multiple group meetings and discussions over possible refinements to the design.
For this iteration has been on schedule according to the timeline we created. We were able to complete the 3rd UI prototype because we had very quick feedback on our 2nd iteration UI. We are also looking good on our architecture prototype, as Alex has already implemented a very vanilla but functional GUI for it. Some risks we are facing for our project is that we only have 1 week left in the semester to finish up as many steps as we can. This has been difficult because of other classes and finals that are being done this week. Also, some of us have family members that are still in town from the holidays that kind of take up our limited time here. If we continued with this project, we would have a very good foundation to work with. We've got a good design and architecture already in place. We have a great team. Everyone is very communicative and willing to do their fair share. However, we also would face some other challenges with this specific topic, such as our limited knowledge of the stock market and finding an API to pull the market information from. We would also need a lot more feedback, which was easy getting being in a class with other students doing the same thing. But without that, we would probably have to branch out and find some other techniques to acquire the necessary feedback that a project like this needs. And with that, this concludes our presentation. Thank you for watching.